I am happy to welcome back Steve Scott to the show. You may remember Steve's work from past BTE shows when he directed The Cake, Miracle on South Division Street, and Outside Mullinger. We are thrilled to see him return to direct Andy Warhol's Tomato next year. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Diane. It's great to be here.
Thank you. So tell me, I'm very excited about Andy Warhol's Tomato because we're doing this huge Warhol exhibition next summer, and this will really be a big kickoff event into the big exhibition coming.
That's great.
Yes.
That's great. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, I think it's going to be a really wonderful exhibition, and I'm very excited to have you to really get us ready and get the audiences teed up. So tell us about the show.
It's a little show. There are only two people in it, and I have found that it might be based on a true incident, but probably not. But basically, it's it's kind of two opposites being attracted to each other and finding that their values are very much the same. The two characters are a guy in his 50s who owns a bar, and a young man we know as Andy Warhol, who has in the outskirts of Pennsylvania, or Pittsburgh, where Warhol grew up, he and his brother have been delivering vegetables. And he ends up having a panic attack and kind of collapsing in front of this bar and ends up being taken in by the bar owner to recover, who discovers that this kid is an artist. And through the course of the play, we discover that the bar owner is actually a writer. And so they have similar artistic impulses, even though they're very different people. And it's basically a story of this lovely little relationship and how it evolved. And of course, the main interest for me was the fact that Andy Warhol, at the age of 18, is a character in the play. I had just seen the Warhol Diaries on, I guess, Netflix, or what it was. And I've always been fascinated with him. And just the chance to kind of delve into what he was like before he became Andy Warhol is kind of fascinating to me.
So I will tell you, because we've been doing a lot of research with the exhibition coming, and Justin Whitty, the curator, and I flew to the Warhol Museum to have a meeting with the curator there because we're loaning some pieces. And I had been reading about Andy Warhol's life from day one and his family,
Right.
and I was fascinated with his upbringing and how poor his mother and his father were, and where they came from is very close to Ukraine, up in Slovakia in these tiny little mountains.
Right.
And the father came to Pittsburgh to work in the coal mines for 9 years before the mother came. He left the wife.
Wow.
And they lived in like this one room. And I told Justin, I'm like, if we have time before we go to Brooklyn, because we were flying in for a day, doing research, and then leaving, I want to go see where he grew up. That will inform me of something. And he was like, why do you want to go there? I'm like, I don't know, but I want to go. And I want to see the church that he went to, that his mother went to twice and 3 times a week. I want to see it. And so we got in an Uber, and we happened to get in the cab with this guy who goes, oh my gosh, I grew up there. I know exactly where you want to go. And he goes, you got to go to this bar.
Ha!
And there's only one. There's only one bar in that neighborhood. I wonder if this show is about that bar.
Well,
there's one.
It certainly could be. I mean, it takes place actually in a small town outside of Pittsburgh, but it
This is where we
could
were.
be the prototype.
That's where we were. We were outside of Pittsburgh. In this,
well, it could be.
It was this it's on the outskirts of Pittsburgh in this teeny tiny town where his family first moved to.
Right.
And it's where all the immigrants would be kind of pushed into, and where the coal miners, because they could walk. And it was just fascinating. So when you talk about this bar, I'm like, could it be that bar?
Could be that
the
bar.
restaurant bar in the neighborhood.
Well, and as I was reading the script again last week, one of the towns that they reference is McKeesport, which is where I was born.
Wow.
So it's kind of like, oh, well, I guess I should be doing this play. This is great. It's a lovely little play, as I say, but it presages everything that Andy Warhol came to kind of stand for, and we see him develop his kind of artistic sensibility through the course of the play. It's really just fascinating.
So when we see this Andy Warhol in the play, is it a more honest Andy Warhol, or is it the personality of the quiet, timid, avant-garde guy?
It's a combination. He is a very shy and rather frail 18-year-old. But we see flashes of that determination that made him who he was. I mean, he has very definite ideas, even at that age, about what art should be, what he thought his art should be. The main plot point is about the painting of a sign for the bar, and what the guy who owns the bar thinks it should be, and what Warhol thinks it should be. And of course, Warhol is right. He creates a sign that's beautiful and attracts lots of people. But you do see flashes of who he's going to become.
But you know what I think makes him so fascinating is he is more than an artist.
Yes.
He is a brilliant marketer
Absolutely.
and brander. And his whole beginning of his career was in advertising.
Yes, no, he majored in commercial art.
Right.
And this shows that. And he
I
had
love that.
an incredible marketing mind even at that age. And there are little clues in the script. There are little references to things that I know the audience is going to go, oh, in terms of what we know about Andy later in his life. But it's just kind of fascinating to delve into that character at its inception, before, as he was becoming who he was going to become, and see what we can bring to life there. Just a fascinating man.
Oh, I can't.
And the other character is equally fascinating for all the things.
The bar owner?
The bar owner, who appears to be this kind of burly, no-nonsense type, who is actually very, very sensitive and is afraid that people will think that he's somehow effete if they find out he's a writer. So he writes in his basement and hides the pages.
Oh.
It's lovely, it's very funny, and it's really moving and really lovely. It's kind of like an odd little love story that forms.
So Steve, but I was just sitting here when we were talking, and I'm like, we need to do a preview of the exhibition in the lobby somewhere while you have your show going on. I think there's some great things that we could cross-pollinate.
Well, and in the first production of this, apparently the designer at the end of the show flashed a lot of photos of Warhol's greatest work, so that you could see kind of the fruition of all the things we've been talking about in the play. So I'm thinking of trying to do that too.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah.
Yeah, it will be great fun.
Yeah.
Steve, is there anything else that you want to share with audiences about the show?
I think even if you really don't know who Andy Warhol is, or don't really care who Andy Warhol is, I think it's a fascinating story of two very disparate people coming together. And in our world today, having somebody who seems to be very kind of blue collar and somebody who seems to be very effete, finding ways of connecting, I think, is very important. We always have ways of connecting with people that we think we have nothing in common with. If we just try, if we just kind of interrogate each other and find out what our values are.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that we, just as humans, we have so much more in common than we don't.
Absolutely.
Than differences. And the world has become very polarized. So this is a really wonderful and timely piece for anyone to see. On several levels.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's short, so you're not going to spend the whole, it's not 3 hours of this. It's about 90 minutes. It's one act. So it's a very comfortable little play to watch, and I think a really fascinating one.
We can't wait. So for fans of Steve Scott, beyond BTE and Warhol's Tomato, what's going on in Steve Scott's world?
Oh my goodness. Well, I retired from the Goodman Theater in 2017, and I am now busier than I've ever been in my life.
So you're working all the time?
I'm still working all the time. I've taken over running the Dunes Summer Theater in Michiana Shores, Indiana.
No way.
Well, it's interesting because my first job as a producer was in a summer stock theater in Colorado. So it's kind of come full circle, going
wonderful.
up through the large theaters and coming down to the small theaters.
So before they come to BT this fall, if they want to see summer shows, that'd be a great place to go.
Yes, we just opened a production of Next to Normal, the musical, which turned out extremely well and is kind of against all odds becoming very popular because it's a complicated show and a challenging show, but it turned out very, very well. And I've been doing other stuff around, and I've been teaching at Roosevelt University, and I'm on the board of the Goodman Theater now. So
You are busier than ever.
I'm running around.
What do you teach?
I teach a scene study class, acting techniques based on Stanislavski, to
Wonderful.
junior year acting majors, which is, I love teaching because I love being with young people and kind of figuring out where the world is going now, you know? And as I get older, I think that's more and more important so I can stay attached to what the evolution is.
And just to understand them and see what they're talking. It is fun, isn't it?
It's really fun, and the group that I have this year especially is very open. They were so glad to be back in person after 2 years on Zoom, which helped, which was tough for them. But they were so exuberant and they loved what they were doing so much. It always kind of makes me revisit that kind of young person in me and re-love what I've chosen to do for the last, 50 years.
We are so lucky to have you as a part of now the Michiana and Chicago and Glen Ellen theater community and sharing your talent and your experience and your art. And we are so excited about seeing your show this spring. So remember to make your BTE subscription now for the best seats and availability. You don't want to miss any one of these 3 great shows next season. For tickets, visit atthemac.org. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you at the theater and next time on Backstage Buzz. Thanks for watching.